Now, the next session we have is one that actually is a superb reflection of the Global Tourism Forum's ability to bring together leaders from across the industry. But not just leaders from across the industry, friends and colleagues, people who fundamentally believe in the future of our industry and know we can't do it unless we all do it together. So we have two very, very, very special people coming up. They're just being mic'd up. And I must say that they are people who I can genuinely say are very loved colleagues and friends. I have known them for many months, many millions of air miles. And one in particular is smiling because he knows that there's a chance when I introduce him, I'm going to make him sweat a little bit. He's one of the most excited leaders that we have in global tourism. I've known him from an NTO perspective. You then went independent. You're now with the hotel group again, or you're back home in the hotel group. He is genuinely one that embraces technology, and not just technically, but he lives it. He has one of the most active Instagram accounts I think I've ever seen. He is a classic example of millennials are not about age, they're about mindset, because he's one of the oldest souls yet youngest hearts that we have in our industry. So to marry him alongside with the godmother of the World Tourism Forum and being able to have a conversation really about digitalization in the travel market, you could not ask for two more better people. So thank you very much to the Forum, to the Institute for making this conversation happen. Ladies and gentlemen, our stage is set, our speakers are mic'd up. It is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage Haitham Mattar, the Managing Director of MEA and Southeast Asia for IHG Hotels and Resorts. Sir and dear friend, the stage is yours. And he gets to have a conversation with Sumaira Isaacs, our dearly loved CEO of WTFI. Madam, over to you.
So we've talked about a lot about blockchain and what it can do for the industry and what it can do for the consumers and what it can do really for the business and what it entails. So we really thought that we need to go full circle and bring the business into the discussion here. So that's what this session is all about with my very dear friend, you are everybody's friend, Haitham Mattar. It gives me great honor to welcome you here, and Anita has already covered that what your journey has been. But today you are sitting at a very, very important position and role. And I think you're making a big difference. And with your brand, IHG, I think you have a role to play as well in this revolution. So all of my questions are a little bit around that. And tell us a little bit about yourself so that the audience a little bit understands the work that you're doing.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Bullet and Global Tourism Forum for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for the massive intro there, Anita. I really appreciate it. And Sumaira, thank you, of course, for being the moderator. I have been in the hospitality industry for a little bit over 25 years, and I've done a cross into government where I headed up the tourism for Ras Al Khaimah, one of the 7 Emirates in the UAE. I was CEO for Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority, and I then had a role for about 2 years with the Saudi Tourism Ministry as an advisor to His Excellency, the Minister of Tourism. And as Anita rightly said, I'm back home with the industry that I grew up with, the hospitality, with IHG, where I spent 11 years of my early years, if you like, in the past, and then back to lead the region for Middle East, Africa, and Southwest Asia. IHG, as you all know, has about 6,000 hotels across the world, and we have about 165 of those in my region and 130 in the pipeline. Massive growth pipeline. Obviously, Saudi is one of the largest. UAE remains to be a key market for us, but again, Saudi, Turkey, and a number of other countries that are really developing quite fast. And yes, Sumaira, so we're talking about blockchain, we're talking about technology, we're talking about how the hospitality industry could probably do more in that space, and I would say we probably are on the back foot when it comes to technology and innovation.
Yeah, thank you so much. So what is the importance of technology from your perspective? Because there's a lot of discussion, that technology is driving hospitality, and it has evolved a lot because of the COVID-19. We know the situation, you know. I believe that it jumped 5 to 10 paces faster during the COVID period because all of the various touch points that we have in the experience of a tourist, they have evolved as well. So tell us from your perspective with managing so many hotels and how that is helping and driving things today for you.
So yes, absolutely. The impact of COVID has accelerated the need for more technology. Has it really accelerated the application of technology at the pace that consumers, owners, guests, colleagues are looking for? That's the big question, I believe. I think the airlines have had a bit of a head start. You know, we now have been able to check in on using apps and choosing our seats, and now with Emirates you can choose your meal. So that acceleration is seen in some industries, yet slower in others. With COVID, we've seen people wanting to have less contactless experiences across all touch points, as you mentioned, in the hotel. So the innovation of applications today and really accelerating that, the use of applications where people can actually use an app to order in-room service, for example, or call for laundry, check in and check out. This is all still work in progress. We are getting closer and closer to digital check-in and check-out. IHG has already rolled out digital check-in and check-out across about 4,000 hotels in the world, of its 6,000 hotels. But what also, when we talk about blockchain, bringing in a platform that IHG has developed through third party called Concerto, where it brings all these platforms and applications that hotels use under one platform. It's really focusing on personalization. So what do guests want in terms of everything from the temperature in the room to what sort of food do you prefer? All of that comes into a digital app, but also smart energy saving. We talk about sustainability and sustainable tourism, and digital and technology plays such a key role in this. Hotels have developed what we call the smart key, where you leave your room card in the slot, and when you remove it, it's supposed to switch it off, but it's not really being used. I think a lot of people have a card just to keep it in there to keep the lights on and air conditioning on, but it is not practically used. Now the world is looking at more applications that allow you to control, the climate of the room from outside your hotel, even if you've left the temperature too low and you've remembered when you left that you left the TV on and you want to switch it off. All of this is technology in play that is coming together as we speak. But yes, of course, technology is what our owners are looking for, the colleagues are demanding, but also our guests are now asking for more of that.
And do you think the pandemic was an accelerator towards it?
The pandemic was an accelerator to certain points, if you like. So yes, we talked about the customer journey. That was obviously an area where we had to ramp up our expertise and ramp up our partnerships with third-party developers in order to ensure that we meet guest expectations of, as we said, less or touchless experiences across the entire customer journey, but also in terms of profitability. We have a tool called the Work Optimization Tool, and this tool basically allows hotel managers to schedule or staff based on hotel occupancies and what they forecast for the future. Now that obviously allows for profitability and allows to ensure that we have maximum staffing when the hotels are busy and less so when it's not that busy. Other technology has also been applied, which a product that we use also called Winnow. Winnow is a very smart tool that allows us to measure the amount of food that's being wasted. And then that allows us to have such an amount of data that allows us to menu engineer or re-engineer our menus. So for example, let's take Hotel X throws away 100 liters of oats every day from the buffet. Right? This allows the food and beverage team to make a decision to take the oats off of the buffet and make it a menu item. So then it's ordered and it's portioned and wastage is reduced. Last year, over $65,000 were saved in only one hotel of IHG's here in Dubai through Winnow. And I don't look at it as $65,000. I look at it at 65,000 meals for countries where it is $1 a meal.
Wow. So, are you having to keep pace with the consumers? You know, because everything is evolving so quickly. So, so how are you keeping pace with them?
So yes, not only consumers' expectations are rapidly changing, but also our colleagues in the hotels' expectations is also rapidly changing, and our owners' expectations are also rapidly changing. So our owners want to have, for example, access to their hotel's performance at a touch of a button. So we've developed a Concerto, again, an app where owners can go and see real-time performance of their hotels. That allows them to manage their cash flows. It allows them to manage their profitability. And also it allows them to ensure that operator X, IHG for example, is managing their hotel at the most efficient and profitable way. So these expectations are now continuing to grow, and I don't believe that there's any hotel operator today is really meeting the speed of expectations that any owner, colleague, or guest is looking for.
So how are the hotels making these decisions? You know, are you watching what other hotel groups are doing? How are you benchmarking?
So hotels actually sit on a huge amount of data, believe it or not. We just don't use it enough. The amount of data that we have from people at the moment they enter the hotel to the moment they leave, in every touch point, what sort of food they order, what time do they order their coffee, what time they have breakfast regularly, especially guests who stay on an average of 4 or 5 nights in a hotel. When do they use the gym? So when you look at data that allows us to look at locations, for example, right, and be able to monitor when do people actually go to the gym. That location allows us then to maximize our staffing for these areas. But there's so much data that we sit on today, big data, that really needs more attention to in order for us to facilitate these expanding demands, if you like, of consumers or guests staying at hotels.
Great. So tell us, Haitham, what is IHG doing currently in terms of the digital innovation? And specifically, how are you leveraging the artificial intelligence?
Oh, very good. So we've launched IHG Voice, and IHG Voice has actually managed about 71,000 calls across the world. This is about $5 million worth of reservations using artificial intelligence. But also, we've mentioned Concerto, which is an application that brings in all apps and all platforms across hotels, but also allows owners, as we said, to have access to their hotels. It also allows guests to be able to make faster bookings, get faster confirmations, and also be able to choose their room and be able to check in and check out using that digital device of theirs. I think, like most of you, I dream of a hotel that does not have a reception desk where people queue for check-in.
You think that will happen?
It should happen. It will happen. Consumers are asking for this more and more. The time people wait in a queue, even if it's an average of 5 minutes, 5 minutes is a very long time to stand in a queue. I dream of a day where you no longer have to present your printed boarding pass 6 times before you get to your seat.
Right.
And we've heard so much about technology coming to the airlines where facial recognition is going to be used instead of your boarding pass or even a QR code. In the same way that some governments are now using facial recognition for you to go through immigration. And the link with governments and private sector is so critical today. You see an advancement in some governments where you arrive at a certain country and the immigration sector has gone really well on digital. So you don't show your passport anymore, take Dubai immigration, or when you arrive in London now, for example, you scan your passport and you straight through.
Yeah.
But then you have to arrive at a hotel and queue to reception and sign a registration card. So that disconnect, right? So you board a plane with a hard-printed boarding pass. You arrive at an immigration that doesn't need anything from you except your face. You walk straight through and you get to a hotel where you have to queue and sign a paper registration card. So government and private sector needs to unite on
Come
this.
together.
If all the security information is required, is received by the immigration, the hotel should no longer require any more passport copies, ID copies. It all should be linked together. All of this will expedite the check-in process, and all of this will allow us to do seamless digital check-in without you having to stop anywhere.
Incredible. I mean, normally in our industry, when we think technology, you think about the airlines industry is, where technology is being applied, but really there's tremendous amount of technology that is in the hotel industry as well, but it's so concealed. You don't see it, you don't feel it, but you experience it through all of these innovations that you just talked about. So talking about governments, you just mentioned that it's really important for the private sector and the government sectors to come together, and that's why our forums are so successful, because we try to do that, is that conversion of the government and the private sector coming together and having discussions. So talk to us a little bit about UAE, that how this country is evolving and adapting AI and smart tourism.
If you think about the UAE as an example, and take Dubai as a prime example, in the year 2000, Dubai launched the Dubai Internet City, and that was such a time ahead of its time with Internet City. But also in the year 2003 or 4, I can't recall exactly, that's when His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid started to promote e-government. So we started to pay for our water bill or electricity bill through DIWA apps. We started to pay for our telecommunications on apps, and all of that evolved through the e-government, reducing work hours, reducing millions or billions actually, and billions of documents that that is paper, that is causing deforestation. So all of that being reduced and taken away has allowed the government of the UAE to stand out in innovation and technology. Using also artificial intelligence, you see that with the RTA, with the Road and Transport Authority here in Dubai, for example. You don't see, for example, a lot of police cars around Dubai, but everything is monitored quite well, right? And if an accident occurs, the police can be on site fairly quickly without the police actually being there. And you don't need a policeman to show up. Sometimes if you use your app, your Road Authority app, take a picture of the accident, send it across, and off you go. And all of this technology is what's really accelerating not only the demand from the consumers and people, but also it's easing so many of the processes that we used to live with and accept in the past that are no longer accepted today.
Okay, yeah. So staying on the topic of UAE, so how do you think this will help UAE in holding on to its status of the best travel destination in the world? I'm asking this question because in your position and role, I know that you have a seat on the board, the fictitious board of UAE, because we all believe that we work for Dubai Inc. here, and there are few fortunate ones who influence, and I know that you are a great influencer. So talk to us a little bit about that.
In terms of tourism, I think that Dubai has been a role model for the region, but also I believe it's also been a role model for the world as a whole. Dubai has taken very conscious decisions in making sure that they accelerate with the economy, but also ensure that the health and safety of the people, the residents, the visitors of the UAE remains intact. So the acceleration in vaccination, offering vaccine to tourists when they arrived, offering free vaccination to citizens, residents, and visitors was probably an accelerated decision, but also a decision that really allowed the country to move fast on recovering economically. And His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid did say, we will be the first city in the world to recover economically.
Yes.
And we've seen that happen, obviously, through all the innovative activities and innovation or initiatives that the country has taken together. Yeah. So the domestic tourism, yes, was probably the largest, but also as soon as borders started to open, you saw people wanting to come to Dubai because they felt it was a safe destination. The country managed the spread of COVID extremely well, but also managed the vaccination process extremely well, and kept the country open at easing restrictions at the right times of the right year, in the right year. And that we saw from whether it's increasing capacities in restaurants or increasing capacities in weddings for meetings and events, but also increasing capacities at hotels. We started to get capacities of 30% occupancy maximum up to 50, and now we can go full on with our capacity and occupancy. So that model, allowing the economy to continue to thrive, making sure it's not done in a reckless way, but actually a very responsible way, continuing to manage the spread of COVID, also to continue to manage the vaccination, and ensuring the safety of guests and visitors was
I think Dubai government did it incredibly well, because when the rest of the world was closed up, this was probably the only destination in the world that was open for business and for tourism, and they handled it very well. I just want to round it up a little bit. This is will be my last question because I know Haitham has to go. But just going back to the blockchain technology and the crypto wallets and digital currencies, how far is your organization? Do you think that this change is coming? And you will be adapting, and is that the future? How do you see that?
Look, the quick answer to you is not far enough. Will we be adapting? We'll be forced to adapt. The world is moving quite fast onto blockchain, but also the blockchain and what it offers to the hospitality industry in terms of operational efficiencies, effectiveness, and overall profitability is critical for us to pay a close attention to this particular topic and ensure that we're giving our consumers and colleagues and also our owners what they expect from digitization.
Okay. Thank you very much, Haitham.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.